What's up, everybody? Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking out the channel. Subscribe. I like doing my own sound effects. Also, check us out, Tobin and Leroy, weekdays, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We're now streaming live on YouTube. Still streaming live on Twitch if you guys are OG Twitchers. Appreciate everybody out there. Check us on out. That would mean a lot to me, man. We also got the clips up there and all that. Heat, one of their nicest wins of the season, I'd say, as they take out the Cleveland Cavaliers. 100-97, stifling Heat defense there in the fourth quarter. And really what was a fun, playoff type vibe tonight. Big feel on the road. Nice bounce back from that dud that they had in Charlotte against a team that's really good at home. This is only the fifth loss for Cleveland in their own building. They gave Miami that work early on in the year, but Miami was really banged up in that game. So this was both teams as healthy as can be together. And it was great to see because it feels like every time we've gotten these matches for Miami, I've been talking about, I want a big test against Miami. I want to see them against Boston. Jaylen Brown's out. Bucks. Giannis is out. Finally, tonight you get a team against Cleveland. Spider's in. They got their whole complement of guys with Mobley and Darius Garland. And, of course, Jared Allen. This is going to be a fascinating matchup because if this somehow becomes a playoff matchup, they are kind of the antithesis of the Heat right now. Everybody talks about the Heat's lack of size and can that withstand in the playoffs? And they've gone against some bigger teams lately, but this is probably one of the most dynamic front courts in Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley is a real delight to watch. Tremendous defensively, and I think like once he puts on a little bit of weight, he's going to be even tougher of a defender for guys to go up against. There was one point tonight late in the fourth quarter where Jimmy just kind of bullies him and hip checks him and he goes flying. I don't know if you're going to be able to do that to him in a couple of years, but he's really talented. That being said, the best big man on the floor tonight was none other than number 13, Bam Adebayo, who just continues to put stamp after stamp after stamp of approval on his all-star case, and hopefully that'll be confirmed coming up later on in the week. But he really took this one home for Miami late with a couple of big plays. Jimmy feeding him for that jumper in the paint, which gave Miami its initial lead down the stretch, and then he got a huge putback bucket on a Jimmy Butler miss, and that put the Heat up 3. Jimmy Butler then answered that after the turnover by Cleveland and put the Heat up 5 for good. Got a little dicey there with some free throws, but ultimately Miami was able to take it home in a really gritty affair. Both of their best players, Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, were really good tonight. They both had both had some really key moments. Jimmy kind of brought this game, gave it a little shock to the chest it needed because Miami got off to a really sluggish start. They were down 16-5. Then Jimmy Butler just decides to kind of put on the cape there and give Miami, take them all the way to basically, I think it was like a 28-28 tie before going out for his first rest of the game. You got a tremendous performance tonight from Caleb Martin, who gave you 18 points and 10 rebounds. I tell you what was nice to see tonight. You got some shooting. I mean, I don't even know what to do. You want to talk about not knowing what to do with your hands. Miami tonight got 14 for 31 from downtown. I don't know the last time you could just say, breathe easy. You got a nice game, nice shooting game tonight. You got some big threes from Caleb Martin. You got some big threes from Tyler Hero. You got some big threes from Gabe Vincent, even Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry actually had a pretty important sequence in this game because it was an odd feel and vibe in each one because it was like after the start of like every quarter, Miami just got off to really sluggish starts in all of their quarters. It was weird. It got off to a sluggish start in the game, sluggish start out of halftime, where Miami goes into the half with a 3-point lead, and they just immediately go, I think, on a 9-0 row, and Lowry, finally stops the bleeding for Miami. Got on the board because he had a big goose egg after the first half. So he got a big 3. Then he found Jimmy for a big and 1 off of a Jimmy block. And then hit another one from deep. So it was important. It really it flipped the game back in Miami's favor after getting into a bit of a rut. And those 3-pointers from Kyle and from Tyler, after they both got off to really sluggish starts, were huge. They really were important. So I think this is one of those games where like you look up and down the box score. Nobody had like this hugely dominant performance. Bam and Jimmy really took it home for Miami. They kept Miami in it in that first half, but then sprinkled throughout were some really, really big buckets all throughout the place. And they were just tenacious on defense, dude. You got your typical night where you got multiple steals from Jimmy buckets and from Victor Oladipo. And with Cleveland is a dynamic defensive team. And, tonight they were able to keep Donovan Mitchell in check. He's, a guy who can average nearly 30 a game. A lot of fodder before the game of, Bam Adebayo talking about, well, I guess it was at practice technically yesterday, but there was a story that came out from Ira Windeman about the so-called recruitment of Donovan Mitchell, a close friend of Bam Adebayo. And, Cleveland made the big swing for him, and it looked like a huge move for them. And a lot of Heat fans are freaking out, and Cleveland looks like they're going to be a certified contender this year. And, they've been good. Don't get me wrong. It was a huge move for them and good swing, but you look at it right now, and Miami is right there, neck and neck with them. Just a game back in the loss column of Cleveland. So, look, I get it, guys. It hasn't been maybe the prettiest year, and there's been some frustration, but this Heat team is playing a lot better. They are, starting to feel pretty special defensively with how they're able to get after it at certain times in certain units with this team. The head of their snake with two of the best two-way players in the game with Jimmy Butler and Bam, both having sensational years. They're both deserving of going to the All-Star game. Although if Adebayo doesn't go, I'm going to riot. I mean, it must be said. And by the way, people could look at this game for all the crap Bam gets about, oh, he's not a true big. Oh, he's not a true center. I got into this argument today with Leroy. This was arguably, this team arguably presents, one of the tougher matchups for Miami. He was the best big on the floor tonight. And had a couple of moments where, one, he puts Jared Allen on the poster. And then two, as this game was still kind of in the balance and Miami misses a shot, just absolutely ragdolled Jared Allen out of the way to get a big rebound for Miami. Got big buckets late, big offensive rebound put back on. So like all of the big man stuff you would want. Appreciate what you have, Heat Nation. Like stop trying to always think you're going to find the better version of this guy, and appreciate that you're getting a career year from the guy. He's been just absolutely outstanding this year, and a big win for Miami. They needed a kind of perfume off of that stench that came out of Charlotte. That was a terrible performance. Call me crazy. They had a practice. They rarely do this where they have a practice between one day off. Like they had a chance to have an early game, so they ended up practicing on Monday. Who'd have thunk it? They actually looked like they fixed some defensive issues, or looked like they had a little bit of a will built into them. Who would have thought practice is good for teams, Blows my mind to see something like that. Just crazy concept for Miami. And then as far as the size thing is concerned, it'll be interesting because they got the news this week. Omer Yurtseven is cleared for full contact. He looks like he's going to be back after the All-Star break. It'll be interesting to see, like, what are they going to get from Big Yurt? Orlando Robinson in a matchup like this, he only played 11 minutes to spot Bam, who played 37 tonight. So, just gave you a really, really tough effort all the way through. But all in all, even like you look at Kyle Lowry, like you look and you say 2 for 5, 6 points. Those were a big 6 points. Like you needed every one of these ones tonight. Like it really was. Those were 2 big buckets from Kyle. Had a couple of big setups there in the third quarter. Once again, not a factor in the fourth. They went with Gabe Vincent, who was really killing it. He was just in foul trouble tonight. Two of the guards. You had him and Garland, who were both in foul trouble tonight. So I think Gabe probably, if he wasn't in that, he was starting to heat up a little bit, and maybe he would have just closed completely. They ended up handing it over to Vic, who kind of just filled it up all over the place. Not a clean shooting night for him, but did a lot of that dirty work for Miami. And I think like Vic, it's funny, like finding that PJ Tucker role. I think Vic has brought a lot of those elements to Miami, where maybe he doesn't have, the pre 24-point performance or something like that. But man, like a night like tonight where it's like 5 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals. Yeah, it's like, it's kind of just filling it up, filling the holes all over the place, and still providing you something there. But it was, for tonight, the game balls, Bam, Jimmy, Caleb Martin, those were your horses tonight. They were absolutely tremendous in every which way. Miami's now back to 6 games over 500. They got a game against the Knicks coming on up. As I'm recording this, I think the Knicks were losing to the Lakers. Let me see if I can check in on that, see where that's at. No, right now it's 110 to 108 Lakers. So I don't know how that one's going to turn out. Shouldn't matter. They play the Knicks coming up on Thursday, so it'll be in their own hands. That should be a fun little matchup coming on up. But Miami gets it done tonight. One of their nicest wins of the season, and a nice bounce back winning over the Cleveland Cavaliers.